Hey everybody, welcome to the Orange Road. So we're still busy with Dwarf Week, and today's episode is about starting your Dwarf army, or if you already are a Dwarf player, we're gonna talk about where you can get some new models. So the new range of Games Workshop for Dwarfs is very unique. You can use them, you just have to get some square bases. I'm not really a fan of these steampunky chopper dwarves they've got going now. I think they're called the Catal Overlords or something. Or their slashy chaos infernal dwarfy thingies. It's just not my style. But you can use them, so I do have them here. I think you can use the new Zeppelin thingies to make some really cool choppers, but you will have to do some work to make them a little bit more fantasy. But yeah, they are an option, so... And if you can get any of the old models, try eBay. It's a really great way to start your army. But I'm gonna look at some of the alternative models you can take. And the first up is Mom's Miniatures. Or Mom Miniatures, I always call them Moms. Sorry. And they've got a dwarf line. So their site is in Spanish. It's a Spanish site. But most of the browsers now have an automatic translation system or just send them a mail. They've got some really nice stuff. So the first thing I like is the little plane. It's not expensive, it's 12 euros, and it's one of the more unusual alternative sculpts you can take for your army. But the best thing about Moms is that they're quite cheap. Yeah, no, your mom is cheap. They've got some great models. So the advantage of Mom's Miniatures is that you're usually spending around 10 euros for 10 models, which, let's be frank, is a bargain. They've got a couple of engineers and characters and stuff as well. Their cannon, again, 12 euros. It's one of the things I find a little bit more expensive from them. But yeah, it's still a cannon. And they have a really great core unit, or core special unit. And it's called the Guerreros Enanos. And these are your heavily armored dwarves. So you get 20 of them for 20 euros, which is, frankly, again, a bargain. They also got some great weapon wielding guys called the Arma Adomanos, which I also quite like. So with these models, you can pretty much start your entire army. At least a basic dwarf army. You've got your special infantry, you've got your core infantry possibility, you've got some range stuff. So everything you pretty much need, you have in one guy, one little business. So yeah, quite a fan of Mom's Miniatures. Then we have a very different one, and it's called Dwarf Wars. So I'm not really familiar with these guys. I haven't seen any of their models actually on the table, so I can't review them. But they do have some quite nice options. So there's companies called Westwind Productions, so that's the guys that are selling it at least. And the range is called, like I said, Dwarf Wars. The advantage which I'm finding of Dwarf Wars is that they have the Dwarf Spear Regiment. So they're 14 pounds for 10 dwarfs, but it's one of the very few dwarf models you can find for a cheap price with spears. And spears are quite nice. I love spears, so it's a great way to get a quick number of spear guys on the table. They also have got a lot of other options. They've got dwarves with bows, more like crossbows, but they're calling it bows. And they have some very nice character options. They also have infantry, so if my previous episode will have any result, we'll have another company that can actually create infantry. But they've also got stuff you can use as rangers and pretty much everything you need. They don't really have any war machines, that's not something we found so far, but they do have great options for infantry. They even got pikes, which I love. Dwarves with pikes just look awesome. So yeah, give them a look. I can't really give them a really good review. Like I said, I don't know the models, but I find it very, very interesting what they actually do have. Another company I want to do a really quick shout out to is Black Tree Design. They're an English company. I've added a link in the subscription. And these guys, the range is very limited. I think they used to have more, to be honest. But not anymore it seems, but I've got a lot of their dwarf crossbowmen for my own army, and I really like the visual aesthetic of these guys. They're really classical dwarves, and I just love them. They don't have that many other options, and they're not really cheap, to be honest, but hey, they do have a lot of style, so I'm quite a fan of them. Another company, a small company I want to give a quick shout out is Windmaster Miniatures. I've been talking about with them a moment because I really want to get some of their big helicopters. Let me see what's called, the Bombardeo de la Buenos. Sorry, Spanish listeners, that I'm completely raping your language. But I like them because it's just a really big chopper, and I think it's a great start of any Grudgebuster project. So yeah. They also have got some other stuff, little dwarves, they've got an anvil. It seems like they're really just starting up, so give them some attention. It might be good to have even more dwarf models on the table. I really do like their, what's it called? Grupo de Mando. It's their command group. They look pretty cool. So yeah, you can never have a real discussion about dwarves, of course, without talking about Avatar of Wars. They are, I think you can say, famous for character models. I mean, let's be honest, they have a ton of them. They have some of the coolest characters you can have. I think I've got the one with the pipe as a present. Yeah, that's from those guys. I wasn't quite certain that it was from Avatars of War. But yeah, they've got a ton of dwarf characters to add some look to your unit. But they're also really famous for their big model kits. So they've got the Dwarf Clan Marksmen, which are 20 guys. They've got the Dwarf Seekers, 20 guys. The Dwarf Rangers, 20 guys. And the Dwarf's King Guard, also 20 guys. So these are great ways to army. They are €35, so they're slightly more expensive than the average company I'm talking about here. But these are multiple parts. These are not one single mold. So yeah, you're paying for the options as well. And I think their quality is quite high. So I really suggest that if you want to have, for example, a big unit of Seekers, just give him a look. These guys are really worth it. Then we have another small Spanish company making dwarf models in Norma Miniatures. Again, don't have a lot of experience with these guys. I do kind of like the style they're going for. It's something that will not stand out from your Games Workshop related army, I feel. They also have got the bear cavalry, so I feel that every model maker is ready for having dwarf cavalry in the book. They also got the Gyrocopter. This one is not exactly my style, but I do like it. I still have trouble with the Gyrocopters, to be honest. These do have a nice round shape, which I like, and they don't have a lot of models yet. They only got 8 choices so far, but they do have stuff ready for you to get. Then we have to talk about probably the best way to get a dwarf army, and that is by going for Mantic, because Mantic has quite some decent ways to get into a dwarf army by just looking at their King of War dwarves. Now, I know these models are not to everyone's taste. They are very distinct from a lot of the other companies making models. You can call that a bad thing or a good thing. That's up to everyone else to choose for themselves. But let's be honest, they are really, really cheap. So if you want to have a dwarf army, you can't really go wrong here. For example, the Dwarf Mega Force, which clocks in at £100 roughly, has a lot of models. We're talking about, let's see, 4 war machines, another unit of cavalry, a unit of dwarves with spears, 2 big units of hand weapon shield, a lot of units with rifles, a character, and a couple of special units with great weapons. So these are roughly 60, 100, 120, 124 models. So you're paying less than a dollar or euro per model, which is really strong to start out with. So yeah, if you want to get a giant dwarf army on the cheap, ready to go, have a good long look at Mantic and decide if your money is more important to you than your aesthetic of your army, to put it a bit bluntly. Alright everybody, thanks for listening. I hope this episode will showcase you some new model makers for your army. If you find any other really good bargains or places to expand your dwarf line, let me know, I'm really curious. And I'll see you all on the next episode of the Week of the Dwarves.